Thanks for staying with us for TV5 News at 9. It is now time for Medical Moments with Covenant Healthcare. And joining us this morning, we have Dr. Lance Freeman. Appreciate you being here. This is a really important topic. We are talking about concussions. First off, if you could explain what a concussion is and also how it affects our brain.
Sure. Thanks for having me. Concussion is a impact that's suffered basically to the head, neck, upper body that is transmitted to the brain and results in loss of brain function. And that's kind of an important concept, that it's a functional problem and not a structural problem. You don't see it on CAT scan or MRI unless you're in the lab. They do some blood flow kind of specific MRIs and can actually see changes, but it's at the microscopic level. It's you see inflammatory changes and changes in biomarkers. So actually the future of kind of concussion research is that there might eventually be a biomarker or a blood test to diagnose concussion. But currently the main thing is just that you have a lot of, every patient is different, every concussion is a little bit different as far as their symptoms, but it's a functional abnormality of the brain.
Tell us about those symptoms and how we should know that it might be time to get some help, either right away or even at days after.
Yeah. As far as the symptoms, that's what's difficult, is that the brain is so complicated that some of our concussion testing has 22 different symptoms that are basically followed. But the most common ones are certainly headache. Headache is the most common. And then kind of fogginess, having a hard time concentrating, nausea, dizziness, feeling off balance, those types of things. And some of them, resolve within days. Other people, have it much longer, prolonged, and we don't really necessarily understand that. It's important to know that you don't have to be unconscious or knocked unconscious to have it be a concussion. For years it was thought that was the case, but there's really less than 10% of significant concussions have loss of consciousness.
Wow, it's interesting. We talk about children. There's a lot of concerns with young athletes. How do you think concussion awareness maybe and even management has improved over the years, even if it's a school program, school sports after school?
I think it's improved immensely since I've been practicing, because people have gotten involved. There's been some changes that have been made, particularly the Heads Up program, which is the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, along with the Department of Health and Human Resources. They basically started this program. It was very ambitious as far as it was an attempt for non-medical people to recognize concussion, to be able to treat concussion. And so it's an online learning kind of portal, and it's specific. They have specific learning modules for coaches, for referees, for athletic trainers, so kind of non-medical people. So it's really come a long ways.
Now, how does something like baseline testing, regular check-ins, how does that play into the?
All of these tests, and there's a lot of them, because we don't have it exactly yet, but all of the impact testing, which is predominantly it's actually a computerized test, neurocognitive type of test, where you sit down at the computer, and then we have more that are based on sideline assessments, as well as like in the training room, locker room, that kind of thing. All of them, SCAT, the newest one, the latest one that's out is the SCAT 6, being current. And if you have, for all of these, if you have baseline testing, it increases the accuracy considerably. So when it comes to impact and sitting down at the computer, a lot of colleges, even high schools, some of them have access and have the impact testing done. And so you have it before the concussion occurs, and that increases your accuracy of diagnosis and treatment.
That is interesting. What about students preparing, maybe getting proactive? Are there any things that they can do, maybe proper warm-ups, hydration, equipment checks?
Equipment checks, I think, are key, for sure. Having your helmet fit properly, having your pads. I think that similarly, not putting yourself at risk as far as that goes. Sometimes young kids, I think that they're starting to talk about trying to strengthen the neck, that a lot of it is kind of a acceleration, deceleration, rotational type of movements in young kids that can cause concussion rather than direct head trauma. So there may be a ability to have them do some type of strengthening of the neck muscles.
And you mentioned that it looks a lot different what it used to be considered a concussion versus now. Why is it important for not only young athletes but parents and coaches to really take head injuries seriously?
Well, I think that we've come to the point where we all agree that once you make the diagnosis of concussion, that athlete does not go back into the game or the competition during that day. They get reevaluated the next day, they get watched, people stay with them, their parents check on them and so forth. And then I just think that kids, particularly young kids, the earlier you have your concussion, they're more susceptible to having the concussion, they're going to take longer to recover. So I think that just in general that we need to be more conservative in our management of young kids.
All right, Dr. Lance Freeman, thank you. We've learned quite a bit today, and if you want to learn even more about concussions, you can go to the hot links page at the top of our homepage at WNEM.com. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
All right, we're back in just a moment.